At the beginning of the story, we see Nahejo. She returns home, very tired. As she opens the door to her room, she sees a sight that takes her breath away. In the dim light of the room, her husband is seen getting intimate with another woman. Nahejo remains completely still for a moment. Her eyes widen, as if all the light has vanished from them in an instant. Her hands begin to tremble, her legs give way. Her heartbeat becomes so fast that she can hear it in her ears. But then, suddenly, she jerks her eyes open. She realizes it was all just a dream. Her eyes suddenly open. In an instant, the dream shatters and reality dawns. Nahejo is at her part-time job. The fatigue of break time must have weighed heavily on her eyelids when she inadvertently closed her eyes and had that strange, piercing dream. She takes a deep breath, as if reassuring herself that she's still in that same small store, not in a crumbling relationship. But my friends, here's a little secret. What she dreamed is going to come true one day, and in a way that will completely change Nahejo's life. She's completely unaware of this. She just straightens her apron and gets up to return to her shift. Just then, her boss stands before her. The same serious, yet somehow gentle expression on his face. He says, "Come in, Nahejo. I need to give you something." Nahejo, a little surprised, follows him into the office. The boss opens his desk drawer and takes out a white envelope, handing it to her. "Here's this month's advance." Nahejo's fingers tremble slightly as she touches the envelope. She asks softly, "Advance?" The boss nods. "Yes, the salary is 1.5 million won." The boss says in a slightly irritated tone, "I had to go to the bank myself because you didn't want an online transfer. But you're hard-working, and I don't want to lose you, so it's okay." There's anger and slight annoyance in his voice. He then asks, "Do you still need the money?" Nahejo says calmly,
"The interest rate is too high. I can't repay the loan."
The boss replies, "But your husband has started a job." Nahejo says softly, "It's just an apprenticeship. The salary is very low. Almost nothing." With that, she gets back to work. The boss stands there, watching her, perplexed. A while later, while working in the shop, Nahejo sees a happy couple. Their smiles, their ease, everything touches her. She thinks, people in love always seem happy. Be it their first love or their second, there's a glow on their faces. Perhaps youth is what gives them the courage to love again, even when their hearts are broken. Then a question slowly arises in her mind. Then Nahejo curses herself, thinking, "Is this why the love of my life is gone? Because I'm no longer young." A moment later, she composes herself and says to herself, "Look, Nahejo, you're very beautiful. This isn't just my personal opinion. It's the truth. Don't hold such things in your heart. When the right time comes, everything will be fine." Just then, her colleague comes in briskly and says a little angrily, "Look, why is everyone calling me auntie? Do I look like an aunt?" Nahejo laughs lightly and says, "I'm married, that's fine with me." But immediately, she looks at her colleague a little sternly and says, "You look so beautiful even at 33. Even if you wear the same clothes you wear here every day, you still look so fresh, so beautiful every day. So you should just keep quiet." Her colleague is a little embarrassed, a little happy to hear this. Nahejo smiles slightly, picks up her bag, and leaves for home. There's a tired look on her face. As soon as Nahejo leaves the shop, the faint smile on her face instantly vanishes. Sadness creeps into her eyes. She thinks to herself, "People say I'm beautiful. But how do they know how difficult life can be for someone? Only I know that. And why am I thinking this?" Nahejo has now reached her home. Small, quiet, but even that peace carries a heaviness. Just there, her husband Mikol appears. He's sitting in front of the TV, a look of absurd irritation etched on his face. As soon as Nahejo opens the door and comes in, Mikole wastes no time in taunting her. He says, Why do you always wear such boring clothes? Why don't you wear a little makeup like other women? Najo's voice is very low, as if she herself is afraid that her words might sound harsh. She says, "When I can't even afford the household expenses, how can I even get makeup done?" This irritates Michelle even more. Her words become even harsher, as if Najo is the reason for her failure in every little thing. Najo remains silent. But a tired thought arises in her mind. Do you even know how much makeup costs? I'm afraid to even spend 1,001. Her face is expressionless. Oh my God. Even after working so hard, she can't even spend Rs 600. Najo, heartbroken, thinks, does love really fade with time? Have I forgotten the meaning of love? Or are you the reason I feel this way? She's thinking all this about her husband. And to be honest, Najo is right. She's working so hard, and yet her husband taunts her. It's really sad. The scene changes. Najo is back at her part-time job. Her co-worker asks, surprised, "You work at the butch shop on Sundays, then as a receptionist at a motel, and now here at the flower shop. Are you a machine?" Najo responds emotionlessly. "Quickly put on an apron. We have to open the shop." Okay. She returns to work, but there's a clear sadness on her face, a silent pain she doesn't share with anyone. She thinks, "I've always worked. I've never taken a vacation in my entire life. I did once, and that was when I was very sick. I never asked my parents for help. I tried my best to save my marriage. And what did I get in return?" As these thoughts deepen, the story takes us into flashbacks where Nazo's true pain, her past. There was a time when Michelle took out a huge loan in her name without telling her. Yes, in her own name, but Najo had to suffer. She simply apologized on her knees for that mistake. Such a huge loan, and just a sorry. But Najo loved her deeply, so much so that she forgave her. And now, to pay off that same loan, she's working 3 jobs. It's enough to think, why have we started hating Michelle now? Najo is lost in these thoughts when a mysterious handsome man enters the flower shop. Upon seeing him, her colleague excitedly exclaims, "Look, Rose, here he is." Najo is a little confused. "Rose? Who is he?" His colleague explains, "He comes in every day at this time. He buys food. I don't know his name, so we named him Rose Cow." The colleague moves to take his order, but the man is staring at the flower section filled with cows, as if lost in another world. Then suddenly, he walks right up to Najo, stands in front of her, and says in a calm, deep voice, "I want to order. Please take my order." Najo hesitates a bit. A strange feeling overtakes her. But she speaks. "Rose?" A faint smile appears on the man's lips. He says softly, "Yes, that's what makes you special." Najo's mind is confused. She wonders, what's wrong with him? But before he can say anything else, the man is about to turn and say something like, "Friends, this chapter ends here. Please comment to see the next chapter so we can try to make this video even better for you." Najo often thinks there are 2 kinds of people in the world. 1. Those around whom the whole world revolves, as if they were the main characters in a movie. And the other, those who are simply extras standing in the background, whose presence or absence doesn't make much difference to anyone's story. If she thinks about herself, she always feels she falls into the latter category. But this man sitting in front of her definitely seems to belong to the former. Perhaps that's why his impact was so profound. Even Najo herself couldn't understand. The scene changes. Her co-worker happily approaches her and says with a smile, "Did you notice he only takes orders from you? I think he likes you. And look, he only comes here when you're at work." But Najo immediately cuts her off. In a calm, almost cold voice, she says, "This is the first time I've seen him." Hearing this, her co-worker is stunned. "Is this the first time you've seen him today? He's been coming here for months. But your schedule is so tight that you're lost in yourself.
He continues, I still wonder if he really likes you or is interested in you. But Naijo says in a slightly irritated tone, Don't talk nonsense. Her coworker laughs and teases her again. He was just looking at you. Naijo says sadly, without any joke, he must be crazy to be hitting on an old woman like me. The coworker laughs and says, Don't you know, dating mature women is a trend these days. And who knows, maybe he's really serious about you. Anyway, you're very beautiful. Hearing this, a slight weariness appears in Naijo's eyes. She says softly, If I'm beautiful, it means all the beautiful people in this world are dead. Her colleague pauses. After a while, he says in a soft voice, You really are beautiful. Don't people say that to you? Naizu is lost in deep thought. The only thought that keeps lingering in her mind is that the man who would truly call her beautiful would never say that. And what's the point of hearing it from someone else? The colleague then says, I think you two would look good together. Why don't you give him a try? Naizu immediately replies, I have a man. The colleague is shocked. Oh, I thought you were single. So, how is your boyfriend? He loves you, doesn't he? He really loves you, doesn't he? The scene slowly shifts. We now see Naizu's house. When Neho arrives home, just then, the door slams open. Neho's husband, Michel, comes in angrily. Irritation is clearly visible on his face. Without looking at her, he says, Put some hot water on me. I need to take a bath. As he says this, he throws his dirty clothes all over the room. Neho silently bows her head and begins picking them up. There's a look of tiredness on her face and a long silence in her heart. Michel returns from the shower. He sees Neho sleeping. He stares at her for a while, then comes over and attempts to get closer to her. But as he touches her, a sudden thought comes to his mind. She doesn't even work out. Yet, how does her figure remain so perfect? Why does she feel so soft? I can't remember anything else. But why isn't she reacting? He asks softly, Are you sleeping? Naizu replies softly, No. Michel's face immediately tenses. He says irritably, Then why aren't you reacting? Why are you lying there like a doll? You don't know? A wife's job is to please her husband. Naizu says, almost in a whisper, I'm a little tired. This makes Michel even angrier. His tone becomes harsher. He says, It's not just you being tired. Stop what you're doing. I don't want to do all this. And then he turns away and goes back to sleep. Tears flow silently from Naijo's eyes. She falls asleep while crying. The next morning. The next scene is in the morning. Naijo wakes up without her alarm. The clock strikes 6. She gathers herself and goes to the kitchen to prepare dinner for Michel. Not even time for a bath, not even a sip of water, because Michel has a habit of demanding a new dish every morning. He always eats hot food. Naijo walks very carefully, very slowly, because Michel can't stand even the slightest noise early in the morning. She cooks, slowly puts away the dishes, finishing her kitchen chores with bated breath. And through it all, she doesn't cook anything for herself. With no time left, she leaves for her part-time job on an empty stomach. Our Naijo's life is very difficult. So difficult that she can't even cook for herself. Waking up early every morning to cook for others, fulfilling the needs of others, and leaving for work on an empty stomach has become a habit for her. The scene changes. We are now at her part-time job. A small flower shop, where a faint floral fragrance lingers. The same strange man, whose eyes look at Naijo differently, is standing in front of her again. Naijo asks in a low but respectful voice, Sir, do you want a bouquet of 10 roses again? The man replies with a slight smile, Yes. Naijo begins to write the receipt, but at that very moment, a loud noise comes from her stomach. Her face fills with embarrassment. She lowers her gaze. She thinks, maybe he didn't hear the voice, and she secretly prays that's the case. But the man leaves the shop for a while without saying anything. Naijo watches him go. There's no hurry in his movements, but something seems unspoken. A little while later, he returns. He takes his order and walks out without a word. Naizu watches him go, and then her eyes fall on the counter. He's left something behind. She goes over and looks, and finds a sandwich there. Just one sandwich that he had quietly left behind. Naizu immediately picks it up and runs after him. She calls out, "Listen, listen, you left this here." The man stops. He remains silent for a moment. Then, looking into her eyes, he says softly, "Actually, this is a gift for you." Naizu is startled. She says in a panic, "No, no, I can't take this." The man asks with a slight smile, "Are you refusing because you have nothing to drink?" Then he extends his coffee cup to her and says, "I've just taken a sip of this. And don't worry. It's not poisonous. You can drink it." Nijo looks at the cup in his hand, then the sandwich, then his eyes, and only one word comes to mind, "Yes." And at this moment, this chapter ends. A light conversation begins between Najo and her coworker. Sitting in the break area, Najo's coworker smiles and says, "I'm telling you, that boy likes you. Look, he deliberately left sandwiches here for you and even got you coffee. If you don't say he likes you, then who else will you say he likes you?" Najo slowly lowers her gaze, then gets up and examines her face in the small mirror in front of her. In the mirror, she sees her tired eyes, faded skin, and slight wrinkles. She sighs sadly and thinks, "I look so old. My skin isn't the same anymore. My eyes look lifeless. How could he be interested in me? Maybe he just felt pity for me because he saw me hungry, so he gave me the sandwich. If I were in his place, I would probably do the same." Another look of weariness creeps across Najo's face. She pauses for a moment and thinks again. "But if he really likes me, I'll have to draw the line now, so there won't be any problems later." Her hands tremble with the slight cold, as if trying to convince herself that she must control her heart. Some time passes. Both are busy with their work, but Kovarkar's mind is still stuck on the same topic. She comes back to Najo and, with a soft laugh, asks, "What will you do about that boy now? If he really likes you, why don't you leave your boyfriend and make him your boyfriend?" Upon hearing this, Najo's face suddenly hardens. She replies with a slight annoyance, "He's not my boyfriend, he's my husband." Kovarkar's face changes instantly. Her smile disappears, and the atmosphere becomes completely awkward. She says hurriedly, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were married. I thought you were still in a relationship. Why don't you explain things properly, Najo?" As soon as she finishes speaking, the scene suddenly goes into a flashback. Flashback. Mikol and Naheijo. Mikol stands in the yellow glow of the house lights, filled with anger. There's irritation on his face, and a harshness in his voice. "Don't tell everyone we're married. We divorced anyway because of the loan. So, don't tell people. What will people say about me? That I'm still living with you even after the divorce?" Nakole stands before her, her eyes slightly moist, but her voice completely calm, as if she's heard all this countless times before. Mikol's words leave a piercing chill in the air. And the flashback slowly fades. Scene in Minkol's office. Minkol is working in his office. A new girl passes by and offers him coffee and looks at him with a slight smile. Minkol returns the smile, as if lost in another world. A little while later, it's break time. Minchol is standing outside smoking a cigarette with his colleagues. Smoke wafts through the air, and the atmosphere of conversation suddenly lightens. One of his colleagues asks him, "That new girl keeps looking at you. Have you noticed? And yes, you're 33 now, right? You should get married. You're still single, aren't you?" With a deep, almost dark smile, Minchol says without hesitation, "Yes, I am single." The colleague immediately says, "So, why don't you try it on her?" Taking a puff of his cigarette, Michol confidently says, Yes, why not? The scene cuts here. Scene changes evening. Nicole is sitting on the couch watching TV in the evening. The room is dimly lit, and the atmosphere feels strangely distant. Najo gently sits down beside him and asks in a soft voice, "How's your work going?" Nicole, without taking his eyes off the TV, speaks with attitude. "Now you're thinking about me. By the way, my work is going badly. There's a lot of pressure, so don't ask about that." Najo says in a soft, almost broken voice, "If your salary comes in, we'll be able to repay the loan quickly, and then we'll get married soon, right?" Michol becomes irritated upon hearing this. His voice tightens. "Yes, we'll get married, right? Am I running away somewhere? Don't you know that when girls talk too much, boys run away?" Nahejo falls silent upon hearing this. A faint glint of pain appears deep within her eyes, unnoticed. Some time passes. The atmosphere calms down a bit. Mincho looks at Nahejo and suddenly says in a very soft, almost sweet voice, "Nahejo, I need some money. I want to buy a nice perfume." Nahejo looks at him awkwardly and softly asks, "But where do you use perfume?" Mincho, without thinking, immediately replies with an excuse ready. "All my coworkers wear perfume. I hate that I'm the only one leaving the office without any." Nahejo then softly asks, "Well, how much will it cost?" Mincho speaks in a casual tone, $1,200. Nahejo is shocked and whispers, "Why so expensive?" Mincho, irritated by this, says, "I want branded. I won't buy it just anywhere. Leave it. If you don't want it, don't give it to me." He turns back to the TV as if Nahejo doesn't exist. Scene changes the next morning. The soft morning light falls on the bills scattered on the table. Nahejo sits, counting her monthly expenses. There's a look of weariness on her face, worry in her eyes, and a quiet fear in her heart. She thinks, "This month has already cost a lot. I had to buy a new suit for Minchol, then I had to buy him branded shoes. Everything's so expensive." Her heart grows heavier as she adds up the numbers on the paper. She finally takes a deep, tired breath and decides, this month she'll have to work more overtime. She's already working 3 jobs, and now she'll have to work overtime on that one too. Because she needs to give Minchol $12,000 so she can buy perfume and be happy. Man, this is a very toxic relationship. The girl who is herself falling apart is the one who's trying to take care of everyone else. But Najo quietly gets up, opens the cupboard, and takes out her emergency money and gently slips it into Michol's pocket. Her face is blank, as if she can't bear to face her own pain. Scene shift. A dark alley. Streetlights flicker in the dark, narrow alley. 2 boys are seen walking. One boy asks the other, "How did you manage to invite me to dinner today? And why do you want to eat at such a cheap place?" The other boy's voice becomes recognizable. It's him, Rose Guy. He says with a slight smile, "Well, I'm inviting the others too." But the glint in his eyes says something else. Now they enter the restaurant. A small, simple restaurant. It's crowded, noisy, and in a corner, Najo is working in a waiter's uniform. A slight tiredness on her face, but still trying her best to maintain a smile. Just then, Rose Guy and her group enter the restaurant. A girl in the group stands in front. Nahejo asks in a professional tone, "Okay, how many tables do you need?" And then her gaze lands squarely on Rose Guy. In that moment, time seems to stop for a second. Nahejo's breath catches. There's something in Rose Guy's eyes that she can't understand. But he's watching, very intently, very deeply. The scene freezes. Was he the one who ruined their relationship? Nasu was thinking this when a voice came from behind her. The voice said a customer had arrived. She immediately turned, greeted him, and asked how many people were there. Just then, her gaze shifted and she stopped. She saw him. Her heart skipped a beat as she recognized him. She realized it was the Rose Boy. As the Rose Boy passed by with his friends, The waitress ordered a table for 4. The girl replied, "Yes, they're a group of 4. Neso apologized lightly and explained that she was just a little lost. Then she gestured for them to sit down. While cooking, she remembered her friend's words that the Rose Boy might like her. She figured she wasn't interested in him. She had never even considered it, nor had she ever felt the need for such attention. Still, she felt embarrassed that the boy had overheard their conversation. The strange thing is that she finds it difficult to even look at him now. She thinks the girl sitting next to her must be his girlfriend because they look good together. She thinks he always brings her bouquets. Working with Kauvarkar, Neho never knows when a topic will arise. She tries to control herself. Just then, Haji calls out to the Rose Boy and asks what he's looking at, because he's been staring at one thing for so long. The boy sitting next to her says, "Haji, you know, the Rose Boys aren't interested in you at all. They just spend quality time with you. And that's what he wants to do with you. That's why he's kept you with him." He understands that whether he looks away or nods, you just do your work, eat your food, and be nice. Why do you keep staring at the Rose Boy's face? Meanwhile, Rose Boy massages her foot and reminds her that Donghuak is cooking meat. Donghuak agrees, says everything will be fine, and tells her to just focus on the food. Hiji then asks Rose Boy why he's staring at the woman and if they know each other. Rose Boy admits with a slight smile that he does. This surprises Hiji. She was a little suspicious, but wasn't sure if he really knew her. The scene changes and Neju arrives home. She's doing housework when she sees Mikul's torn t-shirt. She thinks he'll be angry, and she just bought it a while ago. Throwing it away feels wrong to her, so she decides to sew it. Mikul, lying down, asks what Neju is doing instead of resting. Neju explains that she's sewing. Mikul eagerly takes the cloth and says it's useless. He then asks if she's really asking him to buy clothes right now. If so, she should forget it. Naju asks why she should throw it away. It's still wearable, but Mikul says that men don't like such bad behavior. He doesn't like torn underwear, and loose clothes make him feel even worse. He says it all makes him feel like an old man. Najo thinks and admits that every little thing reminds him of her. She can't understand what it was about their conversation that day that shook her so deeply. She knows the whole thing was a misunderstanding, yet the embarrassing and humiliating memories keep coming back to her. She tries to forget them, but they keep coming back. Najo asks Mikul to return the clothes. Mikul sighs and says that no matter what he says, Nahu always looks sad. He pulls her aside and says that she has no charm, no mood, and no understanding of being a woman. Yet, despite all this, he still wants to be with her. He says that Nahu is the only one for him. Nahu remains silent and nods slightly. The cold winter wind beats against the walls of their semi-basement apartment, stinging her skin. Tucked away in a cramped and dilapidated house, their life is bland and full of misfortune. Najo doesn't like it, but she endures it for him. The next day, Najo is packing food. The weather report indicates rain is expected in the afternoon and could continue until late at night. Nahu thinks it might rain until evening, so she decides to take an umbrella. She looks to see which umbrellas are in good condition. One is broken and one is intact. She thinks the worn-out umbrella might still work, and she should give the good one to Michelle. The scene changes to the office. Michelle calls Ari and asks where she's going. She says she's going to get coffee. As she passes by, Michelle asks if the instant coffee is finished. Ari asks where the new pack is. Michelle says he saw it somewhere around here. As Ari tries to pick her up, she suddenly screams and jumps on Michelle. Shocked, Michelle asks what's wrong. Ari nervously replies that there are insects. Michelle breathes a sigh of relief and, with a slight smile, says she thought she had done something wrong. He asks if she's really that scared of insects. Ari explains that she's not just scared, but terrified. Ari moves closer to her, and Michelle finds it strangely endearing, He says he'll catch the insect. He asks where it is. But when he looks around, he finds nothing. Ari still insists that he was really scared. Mikul thinks Najo has never been afraid of insects, so a girl like Ari is refreshing. She feels like coming to work now has some meaning. The scene shifts to the shop. Najo's friend says someone is late today. Nahu asks who. Her friend tells her that he's Roseboy. She adds that at least his handsome face provides some relief in this demanding part-time job. Seeing her, Nahisu's friend announces her arrival. Nahu quickly goes behind to handle the flowers. Her friend asks why she's leaving so suddenly. As soon as Roseboy comes in, he sees Nahu leaving and heads towards the counter. Nahu's friend asks if she wants any specific flowers. Roseboy calmly says that he wants the same bouquet of roses. Nahu wonders how she made that decision without even looking around. As the morning rain begins to fall heavily, Nahu thinks it's a good thing she didn't encounter him today. But she knows she can't always avoid him. She thinks about the forecast of heavy rain and sees that it is indeed pouring heavily. She hopes Michelle will remember her umbrella. As she opens it, it creaks and breaks. She remembers that it seemed fine in the morning, but is now completely broken. The convenience store isn't far away, but not close enough to run out into the rain, and it will last until nightfall. She can't stay here long. Poverty secretly identifies people. If only she had a cheap umbrella, this problem wouldn't have happened. She wonders what to do now. She knows that if she calls Michelle, he will be upset, especially since he's already tired of settling into his new job. She decides to wait a little longer. Then suddenly, an umbrella appears over her. It's Roseboy. He asks where she's going. Nijo says she'll be fine and tells her that his house is a little far away, so she should go. But Roseboy stops her and says it's going to rain until morning, so why not share an umbrella?
There is no point in waiting for the rain to stop, as it will continue to rain till morning. So it would be better if we share the umbrella and I drop you home.
Don't worry, I'm fine. My house is just a short distance away. Please go ahead.
Understand what I'm saying. It's not a good idea to go out in this heavy rain without an umbrella. You should take an umbrella with me. She thinks.
It feels like the sky is mocking my mistake. This whole situation has made it almost impossible for me to escape this man. As if even God wants me to seek his help. Nejo reluctantly begins to walk with her, and then thanks her. On the way home, contrary to Naiso's expectations, the man did not say a word, although she had hoped he would want to talk.
As she walked, Naiso realized that the speed Roseboy was walking was too slow for her height. She thought of her husband, Nicole, who was also tall, but always outpaced her. For the first time, Naiso felt truly blessed to have someone taking care of her and walking with her.
Nejo asked Roseboy softly, "Your girlfriend won't like this. And what if she finds out you shared an umbrella with a stranger?"
Roseboy asked, "Who told you she's my girlfriend?"
Nice asked, "Isn't she your girlfriend, the one I saw you with at the restaurant?"
Roseboy replied, "No, she's not my girlfriend." Roseboy tells her that she's just my friend, and Nijo falls silent. Then Roseboy says again, "Believe me, she really is just my friend." But then Roseboy noticed a speeding car coming towards him. To prevent Nizo from being splashed with water, Roseboy grabbed Nizo, pulled him aside, and covered him with himself. But doing so had suddenly brought Nizo and the Roseboy very close. The Roseboy apologized, breathing lightly, in a voice almost like a whisper. "Sorry, the car was coming too fast. I was really worried you might get hurt, so I pulled you to my side." Nizo was completely stunned for a moment. Her heart raced.
Her heart raced, as if she could suddenly hear her own heartbeat. She was nervous, but somewhere deep inside her, a strange sense of belonging arose, something no one had ever felt for her before. She said softly, in a voice almost trembling, "It's okay, but..." It was a little scary. Nijo was completely shocked. She couldn't understand why he was doing so much for her, why he always put himself before her safety. She looked down and saw her coat was completely soaked through, while barely a few drops had fallen on Kudika's clothes. It was then that she realized he had turned his entire body toward her to shield her from the rain. A strange warmth arose in Nijo's heart, one she had never felt for herself before. Nezo thought to herself, I have to ask him clearly. Is he interested in me? If that's really the case, then I have to draw the line right now. I can't get myself into another mess. There was fear in her heart, and also a strange hope, which she couldn't quite name. Then she gathered courage. Her voice was slow, soft, and a little shaky, as if she herself was afraid of the answer. You. She paused, her eyes searching the Rose Boy's face. Why are you so kind to me?
The Rose Boy looked her straight in the eyes and said, And I really want to get to know you.
Nijo immediately lowered his gaze. No, she said softly. There's no need for that.
The Rose Boy paused, slightly furrowing his brow. What do you mean?
You're young, and popular with women, he said, his voice quivering slightly. Then, why is a guy your age trying to date an older woman like me?
The Rose Boy said without hesitation, If I'm young and popular with women, then why can't I be with an older woman? But Nijo held his heart and arms.
She said softly but firmly, No. You can't. Nezo gently raised his hand to stop her. I'm home, she said softly. Then after a brief hesitation he added, And thank you for driving me this far.
The Rose Boy looked into her eyes, as if trying to read every emotion hidden behind her words. Then he asked, Do you really want to remain strangers?
Nezo remained completely silent for a few seconds. Her breathing had slowed, and hesitation was clearly visible on her face. But in the end, she said the same thing. We will remain strangers. There was no breakdown, no anger on the Rose Boy's face, just a calm, cold acceptance. Okay, he said simply, and then left without looking back. The sound of his footsteps slowly faded away, and Nezo stood there, completely stunned. She thought he would try to stop her, put in a little pressure, or at least ask why she said that. But the man pulled his heart back together and walked away, much more easily than Nezo had expected. His final reply, strangely conciliatory, without argument, without question, shook Nezo to the core. She couldn't understand whether she should feel relief, or something, the pain of loss. And then she slowly walked towards her house. But with her steps, the same question kept revolving in her mind. Why is he so interested in me? Maybe it's because he's young. And sometimes young people just chase after curiosity. Nezo said to himself, maybe it's the same thing. Just a curiosity. She reached her door, took out her key, and as she opened, their eyes were fixed on something lying right below. An umbrella. At that moment, she immediately realized Mikula had forgotten to take an umbrella. In such heavy rain. He must have gotten wet himself. Nezo closed her eyes for a moment. A strange silence spread within her. She knew very well when it comes to men, often they don't try hard enough, but instead become dependent on women. And if a man's wife is understanding and keen, she becomes the heart of the family, and it is the man's duty to earn, support, and sacrifice to maintain the home. Brother. The truth is, such a handsome, genuine-looking Rose Boy appeared before her, cared for her so much, got himself drenched in the rain, but Neisho's heart didn't even go for him. She doesn't even think about him. No romance, no hope, no fantasy. Instead, as she slowly pays off her debt, she thinks something completely different. Maybe, when this is all over, I can think about remarrying my husband. The thought itself was sad, because the man she calls her husband, Mikkel, doesn't care about her at all. Mikkel doesn't hold a place for her. He pretends to the world that he's not married, as if Neho isn't a part of his life, as if being his wife is a burden, a shame. And then Nezo picked up the umbrella. As her fingers touched the umbrella's handle, a sense of unease rose within her. What if he got drenched in the rain? Thinking of this, she set out, walking slowly towards his company. The night breeze brushed her face, and each step seemed to carry an unspoken worry. She walked a long distance. Several stops. After a while, she took out her phone and called him. The ringtone rang 2 or 3 times. And then suddenly, the call was disconnected. Nezo stood there, her hands slowly dropping. A slight sadness crept into her eyes. It seems our paths have parted here, she said to herself. She thinks he didn't even see the message I sent. Maybe his phone battery died, but at the same time, I shouldn't have come here for someone like that without confirming it. Maybe I was overthinking it. But then, Neiko's steps suddenly stop.
Her gaze involuntarily flickers forward, and what she sees is Mikol. He was coming toward her, but not alone. He had a girl with him. The two, under the same umbrella, walking very close together. So close as if they were shielding each other not from the rain, but from the world. The girl standing next to Nicole, Ari, saw Nezo staring at her, and, raising a slight eyebrow, said,
"Hey, what's wrong with that girl? Why is she looking at us like that?"
There was less surprise in her voice, and more a hint of slight irritation. But Nicole, as if nothing had happened, said casually,
"Why did you come to pick me up in such heavy rain?"
Then she looked at Ari and said,
"They're just my family, a close friend, almost like a relative."
Nezo froze at the word family. For her, it was like rubbing salt on an old wound.
As Nicole said this, she moved closer to Nezo, and stood under the same umbrella she had come to give him. The rain was now falling like a curtain around them. Ari couldn't understand anything. Her eyes were filled with both confusion and disagreement. Nicole said casually,
"So, Ari, I'm leaving now. See you tomorrow. Bye." Then Michelle slowly turned to her and asked, "Why did you come all this way? To pick me up? And that too, without telling me. This is completely against your nature. When did you start being so caring?"
Nasu remained silent. Her silence reflected fear, confusion, and the scene where she had seen Michelle share an umbrella with another girl. When she didn't answer, Michelle said a little more sternly,
"Nasu, will you tell me what's going on? And why are you standing here, not moving?"
Nasu's inner turmoil could no longer be hidden. She asked in a low voice,
That girl, who was she?
Michelle said without hesitation. "It was Ari, my co-worker."
But, as soon as she saw the expression on Nasu's face, insecurity, doubt, and a hint of fear, she took a deep breath and asked, "Do you really think that everything is based solely on attraction between a boy and a girl?" Nasu tried to quickly deny it.
No, that's not what I meant.
But Michelle interrupted her. "Okay, calm down. You're overthinking it," she said softly, but clearly. "Maybe it's because you have few friends, or people to talk to. Very few."
Nasu fell even quieter after hearing her words. Because it was true somehow.
Michelle continued. "Look, all this wasn't common before, but nowadays, friendships between boys and girls, closeness between co-workers, and various relationships are perfectly normal." He pleaded with her not to say something so embarrassing and walked away, leaving Naijo there in thought.
The Rose Boy's words, that he wanted to know her, still echoed in her ears. It was as if someone slow breathing under an umbrella, a faint whisper that touched the softest part of the heart. Naijo took a few steps forward, then stopped. The umbrella still held her fingers in its cold grip, but warmth had filled her heart. Now she realized she had missed an opportunity that was perhaps meant for her, but she couldn't seize it. The Rose Boy's hesitation, the slight glint in his eyes, and the broken sentence that he wanted to know her kept coming back to her. For the first time, Naijo understood that this wasn't just a chance to talk, but to open her heart.
The next day, both Naijo and her co-worker were exhausted. The co-worker complained
that it wasn't even peak season, yet so many group orders were coming in. She whispered that customers should pay extra for such demands.
Naijo looked at her and calmly told her to rest. She would handle all the orders herself.
Relief momentarily appeared in the worker's eyes.
Grateful, Naijo secretly wished that the day would be quiet, and that no new customers would come, except for Rose's. Seeing Rose's face always filled her with an unknown sense of courage.
Just then, the door opened, and both were startled when Roseboy entered. She gave the co-worker just a brief glance. It seemed almost crazy to the co-worker
That Roseboy had actually come, and that he looked as handsome today as he had last seen her. The worker smiled and said she would be resting, and told the Roseboy to place the order with Nasu.
Instead of ordering, he quietly passed by Nasu, completely ignoring her. Friends, this is where today's chapter ends. The story is about to take an even more interesting turn, and to find out what happens next, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon. If you enjoyed this video, please like it so we can work harder and harder to bring you new episodes.
2
weeks passed. Menshal was now staying at work longer and even staying out on weekends. Life went on as usual. Nahu continued with her work. Roseboy no longer spoke to Nahu, as he himself had said. Nahu felt a little bad about his behavior. Even though she had made the decision to stay away, there was still hope deep inside. Perhaps she had mistakenly assumed he loved her. But perhaps it was for the best. If her feelings had been true, it would have hurt even more. Menshal no longer even responded to Nahu's messages. She would go to sleep before he came home, and leave in the morning before he woke up. Slowly, her days and nights began to fade into silence. One day, Nahu was serving at a table where a man was celebrating his divorce. The man had already drunk too much. He was loudly boasting to his friends that his life was now set, would now flirt with young women. His friends were laughing. Dirty jokes were being told, and the atmosphere was gradually becoming more and more vile. Suddenly, the drunk man's eyes fell on Nahu. He looked her up and down, and thought it would be very flattering to get her attention. He called out loudly to Nahu, and demanded that she have a drink with him. Nahu was a little scared. Her heart raced. She didn't like this behavior at all. She politely refused. And then, the man started shouting, threatening to complain and have the diner shut down. The owner immediately came running. He asked, "What happened?" Some customers supported Nahu. They clearly stated that the man was being rude to her. The drunk man became even more enraged. He shouted, "I'm a regular customer. Serve me the way I want, or else I'll stop coming here." The owner begged for forgiveness and said dinner was free for him. But that wasn't enough for the man. He crossed all boundaries and said, "That girl should get down on her knees and say sorry." The owner was arguing with him. But before he could speak, Nahu herself got down on her knees. She softly said, "Sorry." She didn't want her boss to have any problems because of her. There was no shame on her face, only a heavy sense of exhaustion and fear.
The boss immediately grabbed her hand, lifted her up, and said, "Don't do this. It's not your fault." But it was too late. Later, the owner scolded her. She said she was wrong to bow down to that rude man. He didn't want Nahu to be insulted like that. He cared for Nahu, genuinely, from the heart. And that night, for the first time, Nahu realized that even silence sometimes feels as heavy as a scream. Because he knew Nahu was already living a tough life. There are many people in this world who hurt others without reason. The boss's concern brought Nahu some relief. She smiled slightly and said that everything was fine. At least they hadn't lost a regular customer. Nahu had been facing hardships since childhood. So now she didn't take such incidents to heart. She had developed a habit of silently swallowing the pain. The boss offered to drop her home. Nahu softly said that she had to leave for her next job. The boss asked in surprise, "When do you rest?" Then he paused and softly said, "Do you have so many days off?" Hearing this, Nahu's heart fluttered slightly. She remembered that day. When the day collectors had come to their house for the first time, they had destroyed everything and turned the house into a place of terror with all sorts of threats. She was completely devastated at that moment. And in that broken state, Menshul had held her, crying, and said that he would pay all the debts, and then they could start a happy life. But the reality was far from that promise. Nahu simply replied to the boss, "Yes, now she lives every day in fear of the dead collectors. Over there, on the other side of the street." The same drunk man was staggering home. He was telling his friends on the phone how much he loved it, when the waitress knelt in front of him. He laughed and said, "Now that girl will be nicer to me next time. She knows not to upset me." She didn't realize that someone was following her. Fresh footsteps came from behind. She didn't even look back. Suddenly, someone hit him so hard that he fell straight onto the road. He screamed, "Who dared touch me?" Someone grabbed his hair and lifted his head. A cold, calm voice called out, "Do you want to die?" The drunk man pushed the stranger's hand away and angrily shouted that he would teach him a lesson. He raised his hand and slapped him. The young boy slowly got up, wiped the blood from his lips, and smiled. A smile so calm, as if he hadn't felt any pain. He asked, "Do you know who I am?" The drunk man yelled that he didn't know, so the boy said, "Now know me." And the next moment, blood sprayed through the air, as if someone had cut the night in two. That same evening, Nahu was working the night shift at a convenience store. The night was already late, but there was still work to be done. There was fatigue in his eyes, and a strange uneasiness in his heart. He knew it wasn't normal for customers to arrive so late at night. Something was about to happen. Her eyes were starting to feel heavy. It was as if the fatigue of the entire day had left her body and settled on her eyelids. She took a small dose, leaning on the store counter. Suddenly, a small sound was heard so faint, as if someone had just touched the air. Nahu's eyes shot open. She slowly regained her breath and was about to say hello when her eyes fell on the man standing in front of her, and she paused for a moment. It was the same boy from the flower shop, the same handsome guy, whose smile always seemed like a strange sunshine. Nahu's first thought was, is this just a coincidence? Or is there some strange thread that always brings him to the exact place where I am?